Hello, hello, hello. I think I have been muted for the past minute. So I apologize for that. Let me redo my intro. Hello everyone. It's a great day today. We are here to see North Carolina State versus Purdue Overwatch. The two teams that we have for you tonight are specifically the North Carolina State Black team and the Purdue Black team. If you aren't familiar with the collegiate side here at Purdue, there are so many players that are actually interested in Overwatch and playing Overwatch at the esports level that there are several different teams that Purdue has. And so one of the teams that we're going to be seeing tonight, Purdue Black, has several of the players that we love. One of the players on here is actually Zeratul, otherwise known as Jake, who is the team manager here for Purdue Overwatch. So we're absolutely excited to be able to see him play and see all the others on Purdue Black play and rival it out against North Carolina State. I have yet to see North Carolina State play. I've seen a fair few of the games that Purdue has played against other colleges, but I don't think I've seen North Carolina before. They've got a really fun logo you can see up in the top left. It's like a wolf with half of their face in shadow, which I think is pretty cool. As cool as our own Purdue Pete and Train are. That is certainly admirable. So we should have a fun game set up for you here. For those of you that have not been following the Overwatch news, Overwatch has recently kind of revamped itself, rebranded itself with a whole new set of seasons for its 10-year anniversary. And that's involved a promise to bring 5 new heroes throughout this year, as well as immediately bringing 5 new heroes to the roster 2 weeks ago now. And so that's kind of the main thing that's been added to the game, but there's also been a couple other side things as well. We have a new commitment to the lore and the story of the game, and so there's been a lot of new animations and comics and short stories and things like that have come out about the characters, and that's always been something that has really brought the community together. And so it's really great to see that that the dev team is kind of making a recommitment to that. So we're happy to see that. I'm trying to think what else did they do. They also have kind of done just a general rebranding of the game itself. For those that are familiar with the game and its history, around 4 years, no, probably less than that, around 3 years ago, Overwatch came out with a new version of the game called Overwatch 2. And so up until this point, it's been known as Overwatch 2. And the truth of the matter is that Overwatch 2 wasn't really all that different from Overwatch 1. It was just you kind of slapped a number 2 on it, and they made a lot of the visuals better and the audio and stuff like that. But the game itself at its core wasn't changed much. And part of the decision to do that was more of a advertising statement, and so and I know that there was also some administrative issues that went on around that, and so since then the team that has taken over Overwatch has kind of looked back on that and decided that it was not the healthiest for their relationship with their fan base and all that, and so they have decided to drop the 2 and just go back to calling it Overwatch, kind of going with the idea that it doesn't need to have these extra numbers to throw on it just to make it seem new and fresh. That they will bring they'll bring good performance to the game just from making the game good, rather than making it seem like it's new or improved or whatever. So that's always fun. As for some of the comps that we're going to see tonight, I don't know much about who our Purdue team plays. I do know that our team manager, Logic, Jake, likes to play a lot of Lucio and Wu Yang. Likely is going to be on the support for the team, and so that is I think Lucio and Wu Yang are two heroes that are kind of on totally different sides of the kind of comps that people typically play. And that Lucio is really focused more on a rush brawl type comp, also can be used in dives and whatnot, whereas Wu Yang is more of a anti-dive and a poke type support. And so the fact that he's got both those in his roster means that really whatever Purdue needs to be able to flex to in order to find out how to adjust to the game, they're able to do. So that's really fantastic. It looks like we have our tank for Purdue team is Based Ayaka. Based Ayaka is a Doomfist, Junker Queen, and Domina player. Are their top heroes, and so I myself am a Doomfist lover, and so I'm hoping that we're going to get to see some Doomfist from Based Ayaka tonight. That would be wonderful. That's more of that dive comp that we're going for. So probably Lucio would be played with that. So we have Mekare. Mekare I've seen play many times before. Fantastic player. Looks like his top heroes right now are Ashe, Genji, and Cassidy. So more of a poke style. If they do end up playing the Doomfist and Lucio, likely we'll see them on Genji, Tracer, one of the dive heroes. But if they do tend to go poke, then Mekare can absolutely fall back to some of those preferred Hiscan picks, it seems like. On the other hand, we also have Rafflecopter on DPS. Rafflecopter plays a lot of different heroes, it looks like, but Genji and Emre on run, all those. It seems like a wide variety. He seems to be the flex pick for the team, and so likely we'll get to see him on a couple different picks. We do have some map picks and bans. So looks like our first map is going to be picked by Purdue Black, and that is going to be Ilios. A fun map. And then we also have Purdue banning. We have Purdue banning Winston on tank. That might be a target ban for what the enemy team likes to play. I haven't actually gotten a chance to check out the enemy team, so not totally sure yet. And then NC State is yet to do their ban, so we'll find out about that in a little. Ilios is a control map that I think tends to favor a little bit more of the dive and brawl comps, mostly because it tends to be more close range fights. The one exception to that is on the Ruins point. That is a much more long range field with very, very long side angles, and so we're more likely to see some of those hit scan and poke style comps on there. I also did realize that I had left out one of our prize players on Purdue Black when I was going through the names. We also have Leviathan on support. Tends to play Ana, Kiriko, Juno. So again, a wide range of different comps that we can see from that team. And then it looks like we're going to get a ban on Cassidy for North Carolina State. Most likely target banning Mekare. Mekare, I think, is the Cassidy player for this team. I hope everybody's having a good week. It has been a bit of a long week for me personally. I have had a lot of intense research going on in my job, and so been trying to do my best to catch up with some of that. I am a graduate student studying molecular dynamics type simulations, and so What that means is essentially doing chemistry, but in a computer. And so I do a lot of coding and a lot of running big programs on supercomputers, and specifically I'm studying how microwaves impact Z-lights, and which is a type of crystal. And so I've been doing a bunch of simulations all day today, and some of them have been going well, some of them haven't. One of the simulations that I ran today definitely is not working correctly, because it told me that if I were to put a zeolite, which is just kind of like a rock, essentially it's a crystal, if I were to put it in a microwave at a normal temperature and whatnot, that it would get so hot that it would explode and take out like size of the state of Texas or around there. I actually ran some calculations afterwards to see how bad the explosion would be if that was really true. It was like something like 4 billion times hotter than the core of the sun is how hot it would get in a minute. So obviously not true, because if you go and put a rock in your microwave, that's not going to happen. But anyway, had a bunch of stuff like that going on today. We are having our first match start. So we see on Purdue, we've got Base Ayaka on Symmetra, Mecha Ray on Ashe, Rafflecopter on Ball, Leviathan on Kiriko, and Zeratul on Lucio. Base Ayaka is actually staying on that. No, I lied. It's not staying on the Symmetra. Just going to the Symmetra for the TP and then is swapping to Genji. Typically, what these higher level players do is they swap onto that Symmetra just to get their team out faster. At the same time, on the other team, we've got Tendo on Genji, Kiwi on Tracer, Koser on Diva, and we have the Kiriko and Lucio from NC State as well. Starting off this first fight, the Genji on NC State is able to find 2 early picks on the Leviathan onto Purdue's Ashe, following up with a 3rd pick onto Zeratul there. It seems like Purdue's going to have to do a good job of watching out for this Genji. Rafflecopter goes in for a ball stomp. Isn't able to get any picks, but does drop several quite low. Second ball stop was able to finish off the Lucio on NC State with the help of Base Ayaka. Rafflecopter swings back in, gets the 2nd pick onto Kiriko. And a Koser falls off the map. I'm not sure if that was a boop or not, but all those picks combined, and Purdue is able to take out NC State and get that next cap, losing only Base Ayaka in the process. Rafflecopter goes for another stomp, is almost able to take out that Lucio, but isn't able to finish it off. Counter dive comes from NC State. Tendo finds a pick onto the Tracer on Purdue, but at the exact same time, Purdue finds 2 picks of their own. Tendo finishes off the 2nd. Very scrappy fight. Picks on both sides. Zeratul is able to find another pick on Tendo. However, NC State is able to get the cap, even though they're down one player right now. Akosar gets knocked out of mech. Does have the bomb in order to remech, and is able to find Leviathan and Base Ayaka with that bomb, which is going to flip this point in favor of NC State. We see a blade come through, and at the same time, the Lucio from NC State pops their beat in order to stop the blade from getting any value, and at the same time, Tendo then takes that beat and uses it as a moment to blade of their own, finding 2 picks. Rafflecopter is able to follow off with a pick, though, afterwards, using that extra perk to get a 2nd pair of mines, and is able to boot Bendy Straw off the map. This wasn't looking great for Purdue, but Rafflecopter's been finding a lot of picks in the backline here. The boop comes through from Rafflecopter, is able to boop a Koser off the map just before they get that those boosters to come back. And Purdue is able to get the cap. I really didn't think that was going to go well for them. Seems like they're going to have to watch out for this ball. NC State is. Base Ayaka is able to find a dash onto Tendo, guaranteeing an early pick onto that team. Really gives them a chance to hold on to this point for a lot longer. Purdue's doing a good job of holding this high ground, trying to maintain A little bit of a threat around. The coaster dives up onto the high ground, attempts to dive into enemy backline, is able to get Leviathan. B comes through from Purdue. Coaster is going for a back cap. But in that time, Purdue is able to find 2 picks of their own. Mines come through with their little second pair of mines. Pendo goes down. Only got a Coaster and Kiwi on the side of NC State. But the Diva Bomb... Oh my goodness. Alright, that was a little embarrassing for Purdue right there. A Coaster is able to find a pick with the Diva Bomb onto Rafflecopter, and then Mechare and Base Ayaka walk into the Diva remake. You know, these players are phenomenal. They are very, very good at what they do. And every once in a while, you see a moment where it's like, man, I make those mistakes too. And then you remember that they are not robots. They are just human players of their own, and that's okay. We see a Pulse Bomb come out as well as a Kiriko Rush from Purdue. Both teams somewhat stable. I speak too soon. Base Ayaka and Mechare find picks onto Kiriko and Genji, and then Base Ayaka finds a second pick with a blade onto Bendy Straw. Leviathan finishes off Kiwi. A Coaster is able to find a pick onto Purdue's Lucio, but finishing off a Coaster will guarantee that point for Purdue. Some great plays from both teams there. NC State came out with a really early lead and a lot of picks, and Purdue found a way to be able to dive some really hard dive targets though on the flip side, and that was able to earn them that point. So great start for our series here. We are gonna see NC State to Bitey Dangle swap from the Kiriko, maybe swap from the Kiriko onto a Jetpack Cat. It seems like they are debating. Jetpack Cat is able to add some interesting utility in a lot of ways, but doesn't necessarily always bring the numbers that the Kiriko is able to bring. Base Ayaka again is going to be starting on that Symmetra to be able to TP the team through, and then swaps onto Genji to follow up. We see NC State kind of holding the high ground position over here, trying to find some dive targets, but nobody's really coming that way. A Coaster is able to boop off. Oh my goodness gracious! A Coaster is able to boop off Rappelcopter, and at the same time, Zero Tool boops off a Coaster, and then Base Ayaka comes through and gets 2 blade kills. Two dash kills to finish off the fight. Both tanks getting booped off at the same time was not something I had on my bingo card. I think this map tends to bring out some funny boop moments though. Rafflecopter goes for a stomp onto the back, but is able to get knocked down by the NC State Lucio. Two picks, one from Tendo and one from Akosa onto 2 of Purdue's players. NC State trying to chase down the rest of Purdue's players. They are able to get the flip. Rafflecopter does end up picking off the Kiriko from NC State. Akosa is able to get a pick of their own though on a Mechare. Purdue is coming back with their attack here. We see mines come out from Rafflecopter. Not finding any picks immediately, but is able to gain a lot of control with that area. Purdue is almost able to flip the point. Is able to flip it. We see a pulse come out from NC State. Doesn't find a pick. Zeratul finds a pick though onto the Tracer themselves. Tendo is able to find a pick onto Purdue's Leviathan. Mechare is able to find a counter pick right back onto Tendo. And then Rafflecopter is able to finish off both the Kiriko and the Diva mech. But Diva has that bomb to be able to remech. Doesn't find any picks this time. I think this is the only time she hasn't found picks with that bomb. Rafflecopter is able to finish off Lucio from NC State, and is able to really stagger this Diva like crazy. Forces the diva to walk off the edge because they're not going to kill her themselves. Sayaka almost gets picked off here, but seems like he's able to get out. We see a blade come in through from both Genjis. We do see and then immediately two beats come through from both Lucios. We see mines come through from Rafflecopter. He's able to find one pick on a Tendo, and then Sayaka is able to find a pick with his blade anyway through the beat. I don't know how he did that. Acoster boops off Leviathan, and Mekare is able to pick off he can pick off Kiriko on the other side. There's even amounts of picks on both sides right now, but Mekare is able to find that pulse onto the enemy Tracer, and that same pulse is able to take out the Diva mech, taking out the Diva themselves and winning that point and that map for Purdue.
Play of the game.
I am realizing that my overlay is saying that team we're watching is Purdue Gold. And we're not watching, it's not Purdue Gold, they are Purdue Black. Let me fix that real quick. Sorry about that. All right. So that first map is going to be a win for Purdue. And we're looking into what our next map is going to be. Because NC State lost the first round, they are going to get map pick for the second round. Looks like both teams are going to be keeping the same roster. So if you're not familiar with the rules of this league, they are allowed to swap which players are playing in each position, in terms of if that means that one player that was playing support wants to swap to tank, and vice versa, they can do that, or they can be able to swap players in from the bench. But they're only allowed to do that between maps. They cannot do that during a map itself. So, however, both teams are opting to keep their same rosters. Both teams in that last map played very traditionally competitive compositions, in terms of you saw the Lucio, the Kiriko, the Diva. Ball isn't as traditional, but Lucio, Kiriko, Genji, Tracer are very, very traditional dive comps for collegiate and above teams. Actually, typically for pro teams, those are very typical. I don't think I see them as much in collegiate teams. But those are compositions that are able to work very well together. The Lucio and Tracer are really focused on being able to burn down some particular hero on the enemy team, and then you have that Genji for the follow-up dash to finish off the kill. And then Lucio Beat is a very, very good deterrent for several different DPS ults. And so you saw several times throughout that game, the Lucio would hold their ultimate just to be able to deny the value from the Genji blade. And so, and that ended up working very well most of the time. I think there was one time in that last map where Sayaka was able to get a pick through the Lucio ultimate, and I think that was just because the Lucio ultimate was a little bit early. But in general, very, very good compositions from both sides, and then Kiriko is always just a stable pick. Suzu is a fantastic ability, and he's able to output a lot of damage, especially with the headshots that a lot of these really good players are able to hit. Looks like our first map is going to be going to Colosseo. That's chosen by NC State. Colosseo is my least favorite push map. Push maps are all terrible, but Colosseo is what's the saying? The lesser of two evils, except I think there's like four push maps, so the lesser of four evils. That's what Colosseo is. And we're gonna see that NC State is gonna ban Wrecking Ball. So that doesn't totally surprise me. Purdue, specifically, Rafflecopter was able to get a lot of value from that Wrecking Ball, and so NC State just says they don't want to deal with it game, or this map, I should say. Next, Purdue is going to come up with their ban. I'm not entirely sure what they're going to ban here, because other than the Diva versus the Ball, all of the other heroes that Purdue was playing, NC State was also mirroring, in terms of the Lucio, Kiriko, Genji, and Tracer. And so it's a little unclear what they would want to ban here. Typically, you would think they would want to ban the Diva, because that was the only thing that Purdue didn't play. However, when you ban, when one team bans a particular role in a round, the other team is not allowed to ban from that same role. So because Hammond and Wrecking Ball and Diva are both tanks, Diva cannot be banned in this round by Purdue. They're gonna have to choose someone else. They'll probably choose either someone that they think might be able to be a deterrent against their comp style, or against whatever Rafflecopter is going to play instead of Wrecking Ball, or they can instead just target ban one of the other commonly played heroes by one of the players. One of the heroes that I see that is commonly played by Kiwi on NC State is Sojourn. I personally don't like playing against a Sojourn, so I would ban a Sojourn, but see if they agree with that methodology. I hope you all enjoyed my my smooth jazz pop songs in the waiting period before the game started. Smooth jazz, specifically pop versions of smooth jazz, has been one of my favorite waiting musics. Like lo-fi, but a little bit more relaxing, I'd say. We're actually gonna see a Tracer ban from Purdue. That's particularly interesting because Tracer was getting played by Purdue's teams. However, the Tracer on NC State was certainly doing a lot of work. So, like, Purdue just wants to make sure that he is not going to be able to continue outputting much damage and whatnot as she's able to do. We have our bans in, and our first map, or sorry, our second map of the series being Coliseo. Should get started soon. Coliseo typically tends to be more of a dive/poke oriented map. Because it has really long sightlines, it's very, very nice for poke. And because it's nice for poke, it's I guess inherently nice for dive as well, because dive loves to play into poke. So you kind of got that rock boost, so there's action going on there. But it also has a lot of nice high ground that poke can take advantage of. Doubt that we are going to see any brawl characters though on this map. Love to see what Rafflecopter ends up playing instead of Ball. Not sure what their playstyle typically ends up being. Seems like they play Wrecking Ball, Sigma, Domina, Ramatra, Rhine. So if Wrecking Ball's banned, my guess is we're gonna see a Domina. Domina has been very strong in the last 2 weeks since she's been released. She's one of those characters that just is able to be really, really good at what she does. If anybody remembers when Mauga came out, he was for a long time, and he's still okay at it. It was really good at being able to not care about people
dealing damage to him, being able to out heal that, but then also being able to deal very consistent damage. Domina, instead, she still cares about the damage being done to her, but instead she just has a shield that lasts a really, 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 really long time, and has a lot of health. And on top of that, she has a very fast stun. A very low cooldown stun that also comes out very quickly. And so, it's difficult for Dive to play into her because she can really stun anybody that gets too close. As I said, we do end up seeing Domina from Rafflecopter. Glad to be right. We do actually also see a Jetpack Cat from Purdue, which is particularly interesting. Jetpack Cat is I think a character that's gotten a lot of hate from the competitive scene because he can bring a lot of interesting plays that people don't expect, and so people don't like to play into things that they don't expect. On the other side, we also have Sayaka on Vendetta Key, and we also have Mecha Ray on Cat, and Leviathan back on Kiriko, and so we've almost got a complete comp swap besides Leviathan on that Kiriko still. Tendo is able to find that pick onto base Sayaka, and Purdue's going to use their Jetpack Cat to move Rafflecopter up to that high ground, just to help give them a little bit of extra room to work with. They do end up having to back up, and Tendo's able to find one of those railgun shots onto Leviathan, but Mecha Ray is able to trade back with a pick on the Kiwi. Unfortunately, Rafflecopter does get picked off by Tendo. It does seem like Purdue's going to have to be aware of this Sojourn, the damage that she's able to output. Their tool is actually going to swap onto the Lucio here, so they decided that Jetpack Cat wasn't bringing enough value to the situation, which is fair. Was hoping to see a Cassidy ult with the Jetpack Cat, that's okay. Purdue's going to drop down with the Lucio speed onto the Zarya, and take out the Zarya quickly, and then follow up onto that Baptiste. It is just the Vendetta, Sojourn's already out, but the Vendetta to finish off. Lucio here is a very, very good pick into the Zarya, because Zaryas don't tend to be able to deal very well with continued assault. And Lucio's able to really close that gap very quickly and make sure that the Rafflecopter is able to close that gap as well. So that makes so that they can end up creating a very, very long attack against the Zarya, being able to make sure they can force through her bubbles. You see a back window come through from the high ground from NC State. Not finding any immediate picks, but Benny Straw is able to follow up onto a pick on the Zeratul. Purdue's forced to play a little bit farther back, trying to recollect themselves. We see a Kiriko rush come through from the from Purdue. Both sides getting several picks. Kiwi gets picked off. Should be a 2-on-2 right now. So Lucio and a Domina against a Sojourn and a Baptiste. The the Sojourn and the Baptiste are going to back up a little bit to recollect with their team. Purdue does need to be careful about pushing up too far here because their team is a little bit slower to come back. So they're going to do a good job of holding off, waiting until people get back to have this full team fight. We have a Zarya grab come through, and immediately gets comboed with the Vendetta ult, and that's going to guarantee a kill onto that Domina. Base Sayaka tries to follow up with a Vendetta ult of their own, and unfortunately is not able to get it off before they die. He was able to get a pick onto Mecha Ray, and Leviathan and Verajul are able to finish off that Vendetta. That is going to be a fight win for NC State. Both teams really playing this kind of push and pull. They lose a pick and then they start falling back, and they gain a pick and they start pushing forward. It's been a very, very methodical game so far. We see a Deadeye come through from Cassidy, and at the same time a Sojourn ult come through. No picks from the other side just yet. We see a Lucio ult come through from NC State, followed up with a Lucio beat right back from Purdue. The second Lucio beat comes from Purdue, which usually means they can get a pick. Unfortunately, they weren't able to follow up enough on it. Kiwi is able to find a pick on the base diac, but Rafflecopter and Mechare are able to find 2 picks of their own. NC State strikes back with a pick on a Mechare. Rafflecopter is able to finish off Baptiste, but Kiriko and Lucio get taken out by NC State, leaving this in as a 2v1 Domina against Vendetta and Lucio. Fortunately, Domina isn't great into Vendetta, and unfortunately is going to fall to Lucio and Vendetta. But he's going to be forced to regroup. Neither team has been getting much progress on this card right now. It's been a very defense-oriented game. Both teams are playing very safe. You see a Kiriko rush come through from Purdue. Unfortunately, it gets blocked by the wall. Baptiste window comes through from NC State. Despite the fact that the Kiriko rush kind of got blocked there, Purdue was able to take really good advantage of the momentum that they had with it, and they were able to finish off all of NC State's players, only losing Rafflecopter and Kiriko in the process. Their tools going back to be able to get those 2 back faster. Nintendo is able to find a pick on a Purdue Kiriko. Nintendo is able to find a second pick on a Mechare. They really need to watch out for those railguns. Purdue forced to take a step back, try to escape and regroup. Rafflecopter is getting chased down by this Lucio there. Unfortunately, is going to get picked off by Koser. It's likely that oh, we have Azariel come through, just holding on to Leviathan here, but it is able to guarantee a kill onto Kiriko, which is very big for NC State. Sayaka and Zeratul attempting to get out and regroup. Looks like Zeratul is able to get out. A little bit more worried about Sayaka. We do have a beat that comes through to save Sayaka, and then Sayaka follows up with an ult of their own to try to get a pick off of it. Lucio beat comes through from NC State, but gets stunned out of it and Ajaxed. And then we have a Domina ult come through, finding 2 picks immediately, and then finds another pick onto Lucio, and Mechare is able to follow up onto a Koser. Gonna give the fight win to Purdue. Purdue did use a couple ultimates there, namely Domina, Lucio, and Vendetta. Not great, but that's okay. They can absolutely come back from this. Rafflecopter takes out Baptiste really early. We do have a Sojourn ult come through. It's able to take out Zeratul. Mechare locked in a 1v1 against this ulting Sojourn. It's able to get out alive somehow. Nintendo finds a pick onto base Dayaka. Lucio from NC State is able to find a pick on Leviathan. Rafflecopter follows up with a pick on Nintendo, but Mechare falls as well. Rafflecopter gets finished off by that Vendetta, and it's really just Lucio here from Purdue trying to hold on to the point as long as possible. 1:40 left on the clock. Purdue doesn't have a lot of time to push this back, but they don't actually have that much room that they need to get through. One good push with 2 fight wins could be enough to bring this back. We do have a Baptiste window come through, but immediately gets pushed on by Lucio and Vendetta. But we have a Vendetta ultimate coming through, taking out Leviathan. Base Sayaka and Mechare able to find 2 picks of their own though. Mechare finishes off the Lucio, and that's and then Rafflecopter finishes off Vendetta as well. Two fight wins would be all that Purdue needs to be able to get here in order to get their lead back. I don't need the request, but I believe in them. We have Mechare using Deadeye, trying to find some picks from that, or at least being able to zone out some of the heroes. Mechare is able to find a pick onto Kiwi. That's going to be big. And then Mechare follows up with a pick onto a Coaster. Beistaka takes out the Immortality Field, follows up onto Baptiste. Mechare finds that last pick onto Lucio, and now it's just Tendo. Purdue really wants that kill. Zeratul really wants that kill, but they're able to get out. Purdue is almost almost to that point of the lead. NC State is going to have a chance to touch. Zeratul will also early to try to incentivize NC State not to touch. We have a Domino ult come through. We have a Lucio ult come through. The Zarya ult come through. Picks from both sides. Beistaka pops Vendetta ult, is able to find a pick of their own. Okosar dropping low. Just Okosar and Benny Straw right now on point. Okosar falls, and that's going to be all the picks that that Purdue needs in order to try to push this through. It's just a question of whether they can, whether NC State can touch, and they are able to touch using the Jetpack Hat to go faster. Jetpack Hat, Kiwi goes down, but Jetpack Hat is able to stay alive. Benny Straw is able to touch. Tendo comes through with an ultimate. The Doomfist swap comes from NC State. We have a Deadeye come from Mechare. I don't know how he recharts that again. And then Purdue is able to follow up with a second set of picks. All that they need to take out is Kiwi here. They finish off Kiwi, and is NC State able to touch? They are not, and that's going to bring the second map to Purdue. That was a kind of crazy comeback there. I didn't really have faith that that Purdue was going to be able to do that.
We have a play of the game from Mechare. It's the Deadeye at the beginning that actually kind of started this whole train of events. Taking out Kiwi and then immediately following up onto with a pick onto a Coaster and the enemy Lucio. Great performance from both teams. With that second win for Purdue, that's going to with that second win from Purdue, that's going to bring our series total so far to 2-0 in favor of Purdue Black. And then next map is going to get picked by NC State. Looks like Purdue is maintaining their same roster for map 3. Reminder, folks, that these matches are always a best of 5. So if Purdue is able to pull out one more map win here, that will end the series in favor of. And then NC State's going to maintain their same roster as well. So we continue to have Beistaka and Mechare on DPS, Rafflecopter on tank, Leviathan and Zeratul on support. And then on NC State's side, Tendo and Kiwi on DPS, Okosar on tank, and then Buddy Jangles and Bendy Straw on. A great series so far. Even though we're the score is 2-0 right now, I feel like both of these maps have been very, very close calls. Ilios, we didn't ever go to the third point, and so Purdue was able to take both of the points out of the 3 there. But each of those points, though, independently, were very close fights. And then this Colosseo map was, oh my goodness, that was close. I think Purdue took the lead at the very beginning, and then NC State took it back and held it for the entire game and not letting go of it. And then Purdue made that one really good push with those 2 back-to-back Deadeyes. I also want to call attention to the fact that Mechare used the Deadeye that we saw at the start of the fight. That was what the play of the game was. And then before the fight had even ended, to try to hold on to that point in overtime, he got a second Deadeye and popped that, and he was able to find a second pick from that. So just some phenomenal performance from them. NC State is deliberating right now on who to pick and ban. Not sure what they're going to pick for map. However, I can say with some confidence that they're going to want to take out that Domina for their ban. Rafflecopter was doing a lot of work on that Domina, and Domina isn't a hero that is very easy to kind of swap up your composition or play style in order to counter. Because she just is very, very well rounded. I think the only strategy that I've seen able to consistently take out a Domina is to play some kind of a bulky tank and then to just wait until the shield goes down. And Domina shield lasts for like, I want to say 8 to 10 seconds, and after it ends there's like a 5-second period before she gets her shield back. Sure, I'm fudging up the numbers on some of that, but it's okay. And so your best bet usually is to play some kind of a bulky tank, wait for those first 8 seconds to come up, and then the moment that shield goes down, you walk onto the Domina, and that's about the only strategy I've seen that works consistently against them. I was totally incorrect about the ban. Looks like NC State is going to be banning Kiriko for this next map. And then their pick for map is actually going to be Havana. Havana is an escort map that is definitely heavily in favor of poke type heroes. So it doesn't totally surprise me that that NC State would want to pull that out, because NC State was rocking a lot of good poke heroes. I say a lot of good poke heroes. They were rocking a Sojourn last game, and the Sojourn was absolutely the bane of Purdue there. And so I'm guessing Kiwi is going to come out with the Sojourn again. Sorry, I guessing that Tenda is going to come out with the Sojourn again, and that might be something that Purdue needs to be aware of. Purdue isn't going to ban the Sojourn. They're actually going to ban Widow, though, which is also a fair plan, because Widow is very strong in this map, especially on the third point. So we're going to see, I think I put the bans onto the wrong side. Widow ban from Purdue, and then Kiriko ban. State. There we go. A little bit, we'll be going into the next map. I think typically the second team to choose also usually gets to pick whether they attack or defend first. And so that would be Purdue in this case. I don't know that they will be choosing that, because most teams don't care enough to choose it, but there is some strategy involved in that. And that the way that overtime works in these maps is that if you attack first, you'll always defend second, obviously, but then if it goes into double overtime, you'll defend first and then attack second. And so typically people want to attack second so they know how far they have to go in order to finish the game, because that allows them to kind of plan out how they want to be using their ultimates and whatnot. So there is some strategy there, but the teams don't seem to care. They are just sticking to the sides they were randomly chosen. We have Purdue starting out on defense first. I think that's what the left one usually is. Yes, Purdue's going to start out on defense first. Rafflecopter is going to start back on that Domina. They obviously felt very, very confident about it. Ball is unbanned now, and so they are able to go back to Hammond, but they are choosing not to. They're choosing to stick with what worked last map. We then have Mecha Ray on Ashe. We have Base Ayaka back on that Genji. We have Leviathan on Baptiste, and we have Zeratul on Alari. So very, very poke heavy comp. The only one that's not poke in this composition is Base Ayaka, which is pretty standard. We typically like to see a Genji in these compositions just to be able to finish off the low health targets, even if the rest of the team isn't going to be diving with them. Then inside of NC State, we have Tendo on Sojourn, as we expected. We have Kiwi on Tracer, a Coaster on Domino as well. And then Bitey Jangles on Brig, and Bendy Straw on Ana. We immediately see Kiwi swap onto the Ash, though. He wants to match the poke that Purdue's running. Interesting thing here is that Domina v Domina gameplay is typically pretty slow because neither one of them has the utility to be able to push in. They place down their shield and they play behind it. And so unless the DPS are able to get some early picks, which we see Mekare immediately as I say that follow up with a pick on a Tendo, then typically these games are a little bit slower, which favors the defensive side. The Purdue is in a good spot here to begin with, especially with getting that first pick. Kosar is able to follow up with a pick on Zeratul. Taking out the Alar is definitely problematic. The Purdue's probably gonna start backing up, trying to regroup, wait for that Alari to get back. They don't want to lose another pick before they're stabilized. Sayaka drops quite low, and so shield comes out from Alphacopter in order to save them. But Tendo is able to finish off Sayaka anyway. Probably gonna require Purdue to drop back a little bit more. Doesn't look like it though. Alphacopter really wants to hold this corner. He feels very confident about holding this even with one of his DPS down, which is fair. Anti comes through onto the back line. Ooh, we have Alphacopter attempt to use their ultimate, but gets stunned out of it by that quick stun that I was talking about that Domina has. Bob comes through from Mekare. Mekare does immediately get finished off. Bob gets slept. But with a Baptiste window, Purdue is looking like they might be able to stabilize this. We do have a Coaster popping their Domina ult as well as a Weeying ult gets popped onto a Coaster. That is going to flip the fight entirely, making it just Zeratul left to try to hold this down for Purdue. Sayaka dives in to try to get one little pick before the point flips, but NC State is able to cap. And go to this indoor area next for the next point. We see an Alariel come through from Zeratul. Is able to hit a Coaster with the Alariel, but no other players. Does explode, but doesn't do a lot to a Coaster, as they're fairly tanky. We see Bendy Straw is able to find a pick onto base Sayaka, who's trying to follow up on the Alariel, I think. We see a Nano come through onto a Coaster. Alphacopter gets antied, but does get lamped in order to save them. Mekare almost able to finish off the Weeying, but isn't able to get the pick. Tendo pops Overclock and is able to find 2 picks right off the bat. Does get taken out by Sayaka, who deflects that Overclock right back at them, and then dashes through to get a pick onto the Weeying. Blade comes through to try to finish off that fight, but unfortunately gets taken out. I think if he was able to get through that animation, he absolutely could have flipped that around. That was a really close one. Alphacopter is in a bit of a tough situation here, but they're able to live long enough to get their supports back. Oh, they did get antied, but should be all right. Should be stabilized. Ghosts are still pushing that payload though, getting a lot of room here. You see a Bob come through from NC State. An ultimate comes through from Purdue. From Alphacopter is able to find a pick onto Bendy Straw, but isn't able to finish off a Coaster. But Zeratul is able to finish off a Coaster. Now it's just a crappy fight between the last remaining players, and now it's just Zeratul and Tendo, I think. Mekare is able to get a kill post-mortem with the fire from that dynamite. Zeratul attempting to get out, but unfortunately isn't able to. Sayaka is coming back here with Alphacopter, trying to flip this point around before the cap happens, and they are able to stabilize. They control that area.
Mind the shards.
He was able to find a pick on the base attack early. Gonna force Purdue to play a little bit farther back. Unfortunately, Rafflecopter gets trapped underneath. We see a ultimate from Domina, from a coaster onto the backline. It's able to find both supports, unfortunately, from Purdue. It's gonna leave Purdue in a really tough spot to be able to hold on to this point. Coaster's able to follow up with on the mech array and on a Rafflecopter. Daystalker does get back, but it's going to fall quite quickly, and I don't think Purdue's gonna have any chance at touching this point with board caps. Gonna fall back and get a regroup in. That being said, out of all of the points on this map, this last point is the most vendor-sided. So this is typically where defenses that are struggling to hold on are able to get a grip. Base Dayaka does unfortunately get picked off. An unfortunate time for that shield to go down. Rafflecopter gets picked off as well by a coaster and the Ash. This is, you know, I feel like I might have jinxed them by saying this is typically where defenses are able to hold better. But they've got a lot of time to get a group back up. They've got a lot of high ground they can play around here once they respawn. I expect we'll see a Baptiste windows here in a second. Yep, here's the Baptiste window. We see Sojourn overclock get popped at the same time as getting nanoed, and then Zeratul also pops their ultimate. A lot of picks from both sides. I think Purdue's coming out on the top though. Bendy Straw was able to find a pick onto. Maybe I spoke too soon. It's just Rafflecopter right now versus Bendy Straw and Tendo. Bendy Straw was able to find a sleep onto Rafflecopter. They wake up and try to take out Bendy Straw. They aren't able to get the picks, but Purdue did stabilize. That's the important part. Becker is able to find a pick on a Tendo. That's a really good stagger here. NC State's going to play slow, wait for the team to get back before they make their final push here. This is last fight territory. Bob gets popped, isn't actually getting a lot of value. Okoser tries to push the Bob around the edge so it can get a little bit more value. It's not gonna work, man. I'm sorry. On the other hand, Bob's Purdue comes through. It has a lot of damage channeled into him, and so Immortality Field has gets run down. We do see Mechray get a pick, and Rafflecopter is able to get a pick with their ult. And Purdue is able to provide enough pressure that NC State isn't able to retouch. It was a good defense. Purdue struggled to be able to hold for some of the longer durations on the first 2 points, but were able to get their ground back on that last point around the bridge. So certainly a winnable situation. We're gonna have to see what Purdue chooses to play in order to try to push through to match that same location that NC State was able to get to. We see Purdue take on almost the exact same composition, with the exception that Base Dayaka is now on Vendetta instead of on Genji. Still the same idea though. Was there a tool on Wei Ying last round? I don't remember. On the side of NC State, we see Kiwi has swapped to Tracer, I believe, from Ash. I think that's their only swap. I think they're on Wei Ying at the end. Very similar composition.
Attackers incoming. Stop the payload.
Honestly, kind of surprised that Purdue didn't want to go back to a ball comp. I feel like ball is pretty strong on this map. If you see an anti come through on a Rafflecopter, they've got their shield, so it's not a big deal, but a little bit spooky. Bishak is able to get control of that high ground right here, which is gonna make him have them be in a really good position to be able to force some dives onto low health players. They're just gonna kind of maintain their position here until they find a good spot to drop in. And at that exact time, Rafflecopter is able to find a pick onto a Coaster. He was able to finish get a pick back onto Leviathan and on a Zeratul, and so Purdue doesn't have any supports. However, having their tank gone is such a big deal that I think Purdue's still in a better spot here. Nintendo is able to find another pick onto Mekare, but Rafflecopter follows up with a pick onto Kiwi, and Base Sayaka gets taken as well. So it's just Rafflecopter and the two supports now against Koser and their two supports. This is a DPS free game. DPS are now getting back. Leviathan getting dived by a Tracer on the high ground. Forced to use a Mortality Field to survive that. Shield goes down and the Coaster immediately gets picked off when that shield goes down. Kiwi is able to find a pick back on a Mekare, but Zeratul is able to follow up with a pick out of them. And then Bandystraw is able to throw a nade to finish off Base Sayaka. So even amounts of picks on both sides, but Purdue does have the pick on the tank. Is going to give them a bit of an advantage here. We do see that NC State swaps onto the monkey. Tracer is able to touch, forcing another fight out of this. Nano comes through onto the monkey to save them. And we see an ultimate come through from Rafflecopter, is able to pick off one and gets a second pick onto the monkey. Mekare falls. Oh, sorry, Mekare is able to get a pick onto Bandystraw, and Kiwi falls to a full spawn. And now it's just Tendo. It's just Tendo versus Rafflecopter right now. I think Rafflecopter should be fine. Yeah, they got this. The Coaster is able to touch though, and the Weeing ult comes through. Oh my goodness. Rafflecopter gets stabilized. Base Sayaka is not looking too hot though. Yeah, this is gonna be a whole nother fight now. Rafflecopter's not in a great spot either, as they're getting pushed on here. Weeing ult does come through to save Rafflecopter, and Rafflecopter uses that chance to stun a Coaster. The Bop is gonna be able to force some pressure. Tendo's able to find a pick on a Mekare. We see an overclock come through from Tendo, looking for picks onto the backline, and that's gonna distract the supports from being able to heal Rafflecopter enough that they're gonna go down as well. That's just Zeratul and Base Sayaka against two supports and the Coaster. We're gonna back up and regroup. Purdue's got 40 seconds left to be able to turn this around. The hold here has been very, very close.
30 seconds remaining.
Leviathan pops Baptiste window to try to deter the backline from going on them. We do see Base Sayaka pops ultimate to try to find some picks, but unfortunately gets picked off themselves. Now it's just Rafflecopter popping his ult, is able to hit 3. But Nano comes through onto the monkey. It's just Rafflecopter and Zeratul. Rafflecopter is able to find a pick, and then Zeratul's able to follow up with the pick as well. If they can stabilize here, this is totally winnable. Unfortunately, Zeratul isn't able to keep Rafflecopter up, and that is likely going to be the end of it, because I don't think... Yeah, Base Sayaka won't be able to touch. It was really, really close. But unfortunately, or fortunately, if you're a fan of NC State does find another map there. That's going to bring our series to 2-1.
Play of the game.
This ends now. That's 2. I warned you.
This is that Nano overclock that we saw earlier in the game. They didn't end up winning this fight, I don't think, but they certainly got very close. Looks like the next map that we're going to be heading into is New Junk City. That is picked by Purdue. This is the first round that Purdue has lost. Purdue is going to ban Zarya. Both teams are going to maintain their same roster, no swaps. And then we have a Genji ban from the state. Probably hints at that they're going to be trying to play more of a poke comp again this round. That being said, New Junk City is more brawly, I would say. Most of the Flashpoint maps tend to be more brawl in character, but I wouldn't be surprised actually if we saw a Junker Queen play from either of the teams this map. Junker Queen tends to get played a lot on this map. Home territory and whatnot. We're going to be heading into our fourth map, sorry.
Initiating match.
If you're not familiar, New Junk City, sorry, not Junkertown. That's a different map. New Junk City recently got a rework that changed a couple different parts of how the map plays. I think one of the most notable changes is how the bottom area looks. Used to just be a few small rooms that you could go into on the sides of the points, and now they've expanded it to be kind of a whole surrounding area around. And so a lot of good teams can use that to their advantage in terms of making anyone that chooses to go to the point enter kind of a kill box.
You are
You will.
nothing without my strength.
I see Purdue's changing up a few of their characters here. We're gonna see Leviathan on Juno, and Zeratul was almost playing Mercy. I don't know if that was serious or not. And actually, I lied though. Leviathan's not playing Juno. Leviathan, it was just going Juno for the speed ring to be able to get their team out faster, similar to the Symmetra strategy that we talked about earlier. On the other hand, Akosar is back to Diva. Tendo's going to be playing Cassidy, and then we have a Ana Brig back from that state.
Leave me be.
Donna tends to be pretty good into Diva, mainly because of the beam, but also because Diva is super susceptible to that stun as well. It's typically a good matchup here. We do see that NC State is able to get that first cap. Purdue's not super concerned with the cap, just more concerned with being able to get some of these picks. Unfortunately, they do lose Mecha Ray to the Tracer. Virtual's able to follow up with a pick on a Brig, but two more of Purdue's players go down in the follow-up.
Team kill.
Purdue starts to make their push towards the point. Both teams are going to be kind of playing around the outside, maintaining their safe area. Brig is able to find a pick onto Zeratul pretty early. You've seen a nano come through onto the D.Va. They're able to use that momentum to be able to finish off the rest of the players as well. And that is going to be first point cap for NC State.
Flashpoint. Bomb.
Going into this next fight, NC State has 4 ultimates coming up, everything except for Nano. Purdue has Domino ultimate. They are close to getting Sojourn ult and Kiriko Rush. Purdue is able to pushing quite quickly with that Lucio speed and is able to find 3 picks of their own. Basaka finds a counter pick. Sorry, I said that backwards. Anyway, Basaka though was able to find a pick of their own, and Purdue is able to stay this here. Basaka does push up a little bit far and gets taken out by Tendo. Icarus flying too close to the sun as well. NC State swings the corner.
Ends now.
You see overclock come through from Mecha Ray. Tendo wants to shut that down, but unfortunately gets a little bit too greedy and gets taken out. D.Va mech gets taken out, but the bomb is used to be able to restabilize. The bomb is able to find a pick on the logic. I don't know how they keep finding D.Va bomb kills with this. I'm gonna be so honest. Kiriko Rush comes through to try to help stabilize Purdue after losing their Lucio. They are able to find a pick onto Brig, loses a pick from Kiriko, and unfortunately Rafflecopter popped Domino ult in an attempt to stabilize and dies. You see a Lucio beat come through, and Purdue uses that time to rush right into NC State. Is able to find a pick onto Tendo, follows up with a pick onto Brig. Pulse bomb comes through from NC State, doesn't find any picks. Kiwi is able to find a pick though onto Zeratul. Nano comes through onto the D.Va, doesn't find any picks. Base Sayaka is able to finish off them, and Mecha Ray finishes off the Tracer. Gonna be second point goes to Purdue.
Next flashpoint.
We're gonna flip the map over to the Junkertown Municipal Refinery. Toxic Waste Center, as I like to call it.
Flashpoint unlocks in 10 seconds.
They stayed opting to look through the side route, attempting to get a flank onto Purdue. Purdue's Leviathan does get taken out quite early by Tracer. Well-timed stun from onto Okoser, though, is going to threaten the D.Va D-Mech, but isn't able to find it. Basaka is able to follow up with a pick on a Tendo. Mecha Ray is one-shot, does get finished off by Kiwi. Basaka also finds a pick on the Brig. Bendystraw finds a pick back onto Basaka. Rafflecopter counters with a pick onto the enemy Tracer. And a very well-timed boop is able to send the D.Va off into no man's land, where the rest of the team is able to finish them off, and that's going to stabilize Purdue.
Both teams are grouped back up. But a few ultimates on the docket. I expect we'll see one right at the beginning of this. Okoser dives in, does get demeched, and has to pop bomb. Base Diaka follows up though with a Vendetta ultimate, is able to find a pick onto the Brig. In the meantime though, NC State does get a cap. But Purdue only has to win one more fight to be able to get this point, so they don't care too much. We do see a beat come through to save Purdue from the overclock. Nano comes through onto the Sojourn in order to keep her alive. Base Diaka and Logic go down from Purdue. We see Mecha Ray pop Sojourn ult, and ultimate from Domina comes through from Purdue. Brig ultimate comes through in order to keep their team alive. It's just Roppelcopter now against Tendo and Kiwi. I spoke too soon. Zeratul and Base Diaka fly in just in time in order to try to finish off the remaining players. Zeratul and Base Diaka are left against Kiwi. And they're going to flip the point, and I don't think NC State's going to have a chance of being able to touch to extend to overtime. Yeah, that's going to give a second point cap to Purdue. Purdue now needs one more point on this map in order to win both this map, but the entire series. NC State's forced into a corner here. Right now, ultimate-wise, neither team is looking too wealthy. We've got Leviathan with Kiriko Rush, about the only for a little bit. And just as I said, we see Kiriko Rush come out almost immediately. Purdue really wants to win this early fight and get a defense set up. Aren't able to find any picks, but they are sending quite an attack into the enemy backline on the supports. But the Brig is able to keep them alive, find a pick onto Leviathan, and finds a pick onto Roppelcopter. That's going to be a fight win for I was gonna say a fight win for NC State. Base Diaka was able to get one more pick onto Liana, but I think they're still going to be able to cap before Purdue has a chance to retouch. Purdue's going to waste no time though. They know that that there's an Ana missing from the team. They're gonna try to push on that. Tendo pops the overclock. Does get taken out though by Base Diaka. Base Diaka is gonna fall to it, but being able to take out that overclock is a lot of value. The coaster dropped really low, is able to get demeched. The bomb does get popped in order to keep them alive. In order to remech. Bendy Straw is able to get taken out. And then the Brig also falls from NC State, leaving just a Baby Diva and a Tracer to try to hold on to the point for as long as possible for NC State. That's going to be a flip for Purdue. We see a Sigma swap here, and then we see Base Diaka also popping ultimate there, is able to get a free kill onto Akasur there with the help of that beat. Purdue wants to be able to win these fights really early because they know that if they can just keep forcing these ultimates through to get an early fight win, they can guarantee the end of the game. They do lose Logic in the process, but getting that Brig ult out is fantastic. They've got Roppelcopter ult and they've got Mecha Rays Sojourn Overclock to try to hold this through. And NC State's going to be forced to try to make a bit of a desperate touch here. Are they even going to be able to make a desperate touch? Oh, they're able to touch with the Tracer. The Tracer is forced to recall. And they're not going to be able to get a retouch, and that's going to give the points and the map and the series all to Purdue. We have our victors. Purdue Black wins over NC State Black. Congratulations to them. Let me pop back in for Base Diaka's play the game real quick there. Yeah, this is right at the end too when we saw all those ultimates being used to really force this point for Purdue. They knew exactly what they needed to do in order to guarantee their victory. So fantastic performance from both teams. Thank you all for coming to watch, for coming to support.
your boilers, and